Naturally, as you get older, things change, right? Physically, you look a little different. Mentally, you might have a mindset shift about things, change your mind about things. Not me, though. I'm not open to new ideas, as they say. I got it all figured out from day one, so why change anything now, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I have to say, I did change my mind about one thing. When I was younger, didn't like pickles, didn't eat any pickles. But now, I dabble. It's still not a very solid relationship. Like we have a little bit of breaks. You know how couples are like, we're taking a break? I do that with pickles. It's very one sided though. They don't really have a say in the matter. I've never known them to like me back. I kind of, hit them up every once in a while and then they're kind of like, yeah, I have nothing else going on. I'm like, oh, nice. Actually, that's so cool. Yeah, I happen to be free too. They're like, you hit me up. I'm like, no, I know. I just, are you coming over or not? Okay. I'm making dinner. But even physically, right? Not just your body, but other things change too. The extension of your physical self, your clothing changes. And this is something I talked about in a few episodes back. And I talked about how as you get older, you will have more buttons on the clothes you wear. That seems to be true. As you get older, right? It's one of those graphs you saw in AP statistics. As you get older, right? Age increases. A number of buttons you adorn yourself with also increases. But I've noticed something else. I've noticed something else that people like to add on to their wardrobe, right? A little accoutrement or whatever you call them. And that is a pen. It's never a normal size pen. It's not a pen you see in a normal spot either. Like, when you get a haircut and at the front desk, they have those pens, right? Maybe they have a flower on top. Yes, I get my hair cut at a hospital. But those pens, they're usually like a Bic, very disposable pen, right? Because everyone's touching those. You got to switch them every so often. Can't really do anything with the ink. There's no reason to give the general public nice pens because they have no, what is it, reverence towards the thing. So give them the shit, right? And those pens, those only have a place in a classroom, in a doctor's office, at a haircut place. But nice pens, those have a little more of an individualistic use, right? That's one that can kind of get walked around with, right? That's a pen you want to be seen in public with. And people do. They do sport the pen. It could either be, holstered. It could be a concealed carry, or it could be out in the open. It depends what kind of outfit you're going for. And it also depends on the type of person, right? A concealed carry pen owner, they probably are the more hardcore ones, right? They actually use that thing for its intended purpose, to take some notes. Usually it'll be joined by a little notebook. You ever see those? You don't. You only hear about them. Because who does this? No one. No one carries a pen around. But recently I had the idea. And I was like, that would be cool. Because yeah, I have my phone. But something about the tactile, sensation of writing on a small thing, it feels nice. But everything else about it sucks. You, first off, you're the guy that carries around a pen and a notebook. Already, you're playing from a losing position. I don't have enough social currency to play that game. You understand, right? When I came back to do this podcast, 23 episodes ago? I made a declaration. I told you my stock is down. For the mere fact that I'm doing a podcast, I'm a single 25-year-old with a podcast. It doesn't get much worse than that. So already, losing position. I can't then add on to that being the guy that carries around a notebook and a small pen. And that's the other thing I said. The pen, right? These big pens, these disposable pens like this, right? I got one right here, in fact. And I could just throw this away and it wouldn't matter because it's a disposable pen. No one gives a shit. If that was a nice pen, that would have maybe hurt a little bit. There's a slight part of me that is hurting right now because I worry, what if I threw it, it opened up and now, yeah, all over my carpet there's ink. And that's something I'm going to be anxious about for the next 30 minutes. But I trust that you and I can both be strong. And not check that the pen blew up. It didn't blow up. I just checked. I mean, I didn't check. Like I said, I don't change my mind on things. Once I decide, there's no budging. But the pens people carry around, they have to be small. Because, like I said, sometimes they conceal them. Sometimes they put them in their pocket. And just let the little tip show. But these chest pockets, they're not very deep. So they can't have this long pen, right? Or else they look like one of those weird drinks you get, right? You get a small drink at a fast food place and they give you like a milkshake straw and that shit's like over here. And then you do that thing where you go to drink and you go and you try to like track down the straw with your mouth. It's bad all around. But I don't have, like I said, the social currency to take out some worth and be the guy that carries around a notebook and a small pen because I have a podcast. I can't do that to myself too. It's kind of like when you go to the bank. I wouldn't know. I'm very liquid. But it's kind of like when you go to the bank and you ask for a loan. I would assume if you have like a certain amount of outstanding loans, outstanding in a different meaning, not as in good, but if you have a bunch of outstanding loans, I'm sure they're not like eager to give you another one. I'm sure they can't even. That might be reckless. It's kind of like when you have a friend that always borrows money. At a certain point, you're like, hey, you got to pay me back. The bank is your friend, is what I'm saying. But I'm detracting from the point. I'm really getting off base here. The pen. Some people carry the pen around. And like I said, I think it is all across the board bad. Because first of all, you have the stigma. Oh my God. Person with the pen. It's cool, right? Once. And then the second time you do it, the same person that gave you praise will hate you. How quickly they turn. But that's okay, because you can write their name in your little notebook and be like, this person, I don't fuck with them. But very quickly, yeah, this party trick, it turns into an annoyance. It turns into embarrassment. No one wants to be seen with you in public. It's really sad if you think about it. Because these are people just like you and I. And yet they do this one thing and now suddenly they're weirdos. There's like certain groups of people out there, they're like, yeah, he makes good points. Yeah, I'm talking about a pen though. You're doing something illegal. That's not allowed. But the other big bad thing about a pen, ironically, because it's so small, is that it's dangerous. And that's kind of the point I want to drive home, is that there's no benefits to doing this. But the extreme negative is that it's dangerous. The thing is, all jokes aside, I don't really want to carry a pen around because I'm afraid I'll stab myself. The thing is, wherever you put that pen, right, it's in a pocket. And sometimes when you sit, right, your body moves in certain ways that it isn't when you're standing. And sometimes when you contort in those ways, your pockets, they change too. They might bend. They might, rub up against your thigh in ways they didn't before. And anything in there might sit differently on your body. And so I worry if I sit down, am I going to, shiv myself with a Bic? These are things I think about. And that's why I've just decided, it's not worth it. Let's not carry around a pen. And then the same thing there, right? When I threw that pen, which I haven't checked yet. I don't know. It could be just spilled over there with ink. But when I threw that pen, I was nervous, right? About the ink. That's the other thing. I like the clothes I have, right? That's the thing. One of the things you get when you're older too is you land on some clothes that you really like and then you wear them until they fall apart at the seams, right? Till the wheels fall off. So if I'm going to invite a pen to that arena, into that ecosystem, I have to ensure that it doesn't fuck everything up. Because if I put a pen in my pants, and I love those pants, and the pen explodes, now I don't have a pen or pants. And now I'm pissed. So that's another reason I'm not going to carry around a pen. Not only is it the social stigma, not only is it the danger, but it's also the physical danger and the aesthetic danger. It could blow up and suddenly ruin part of my wardrobe. I won't be having it. But some people do. And props to them, because people that do walk around with nice pens are usually wearing nice clothes. And I'm like, oh, so what do you know that I don't? Are you using protection? Do you keep the pen wrapped when you're not using it? Because I heard you're supposed to wrap it when you do use it. Or are we talking about something else here? Is that what a pen is, or is that what a peen is? Oh, I see what we're doing here. So yes, my hot take is that a pen is inefficient to carry around all the time. I don't see when it would be useful. Because even the people that do carry it around to take notes, well, now you gotta have a place where you can write down. Sure, the little notebook you have can have a hard back, but it's just inefficient. It's easier just to take out your phone and do it, right? Take the note you want to take. And also that way it's uploaded to the cloud and you'll never lose it. Whereas if you write in a notebook, you drop it in a puddle, which was formed by rain from a cloud, and in that case, the cloud would fuck you. See, the cloud, it really highlights the duality of man, doesn't it? Because it can show you how it can save, but it can also destroy. It's kind of the beauty about fire, right? Jokes aside, I did read the book Midnight Library. I forgot the author's name. I'm so sorry. But there's one idea in that book that I wrote down because I was like, oh, this is so amazing. It's the idea that fire is not, it has no motive. Sometimes we see fire destroy a building and we're like, fire is evil. And then sometimes we see fire in a candle and we're like, that's the most beautiful thing ever. But they're both fire. But neither of those cases does the fire have motive. It just is. And I think that's what's so beautiful about fire is the nature of it. Is that it can extend to these two polar opposites. Ironically, it's so hot. But at the end of the day, there's no motive. It's just doing what it does. This is something I talked about in like an old episode in more detail, but it's always nice to revisit, isn't it? See, the thing about stories, right? Sometimes I feel guilty if I tell a story again, even with friends. I know when I've told certain stories to them. And sometimes I'll tell a story to one friend in a week, and then I'm like, I can't tell it to this other friend because it feels dirty. It feels like I'm double dipping. Feels like I'm cheating on this story, right? Because I told it here, I used it here, and now I'm using it over here. What am I doing? So sometimes I'll stop myself, and I don't need to feel bad about that, right? Because stories are like friends. We have to constantly revisit them so we can keep current and know what they're up to. And plus, they're useful in all different situations. I'm not saying you should just use your friends, right? They're different in that way, but they teach you very valuable lessons. And sometimes they pop up in your life and become so prevalent and predominant, and then they disappear for a while, and then you remember later in life, oh yeah, that friend or that story. That's kind of useful here, the thing I learned from that. So that's what I did there. I feel guilty for bringing it up again, but it was relevant, so I did it. And speaking of relevance, something that has been so relevant for the past year is the Rizzler. By the way, it's happy birthday to the Rizzler. I believe it was on November 15th, 2017. What fun is that, huh? And I talked about the Rizzler 2 weeks ago on here, right? And I said, if this was 2019, he'd probably be in a David Dobrik vlog. But I would like to bring up the Rizzler again today because I went to a Kings game, a Sacramento Kings game. That's my local basketball team. It's not my team. I don't own it. But I'm also not one of those people that says, oh yeah, we're going to win it all this year. Oh yeah? See, the problem with that joke, it's not even a joke, but like the problem with the idea of like making fun of people that say like, oh yeah, we have really good defense. We got a good pickup this year. I think we're going to win it big. If we get, these certain things under wraps, I think we got the chip. There's a problem with that whole situation. You can't make fun of that person because it's so cliche, right? The joke is always like, oh yeah, what position do you play? And then you can't be that person either because it's ridiculous what they're saying. They're talking as if they're on the team. It's a lose-lose situation. So it's not even right to engage in that because either role you play, you're a loser. And that's why I say we should abolish sports because it's enough. There's no winners except one team every night. But we got to get rid of it, all right? It's perpetuating this harmful idea that exercise is important. I say we stop. Because anytime people are exercising, they're not listening to this. And I need people. I need them to tune in. But I went to the Kings game. And they do that thing in the middle of games where they show people on the camera. And sometimes it's like a theme, right? So one of the themes they just did was like, oh, dance party. And so they showed the camera on different people, and all you have to do is dance. You go, woo, yeah. You do that thing where you like kind of slow dance a little bit. You don't put too much energy into it. Maybe do like 40%. And then you see yourself on the big screen. You're like, and you keep pointing at yourself, and then you see, oh, this is so sad. It hurts me every time I see it. But anytime someone's on that camera, up in the big Jumbotron, the thing I hate to see is when I see them reach for their phone and it gets just halfway up their body. And I'm like, oh, they're trying to capture that, but they won't be able to because it's never It's never that slow. It's too fast. The world moves too fast, doesn't it? But that's one of the true tragedies, I think, is when you see someone see themselves on a Jumbotron and see them reach for their camera, you're like, oh, you're not going to get it. Just enjoy your time up there, huh? Which is really a commentary on society, you know? We're so quick to reach for our cameras, which are also our phones. We forget to live in the moment. Life is really just one big Jumbotron. So live in the present, or you might miss it. Because what's the point of taking a picture if you'll never do it again? But sometimes I see, right? They flash on kids up there. Well, they phrasing, but they show kids, right, that are dancing. Maybe they take turns. Adult, kid, adult, kid. And every single kid that was up there, I'm talking like 7 kids, every single one of them. And I'm not being hyperbolic. This is not me being dramatic. Every single kid did the Rizzler face. Are you familiar with what the Rizzler face is? It's where that, you go like this. That whole shit. Every single kid did that. And I wonder, what are the signs of a collapsing society? Because I believe these are the early stages. Because when I looked up at those kids, a deep melancholy fell over me. I looked at that, I was like, oh my goodness. This is what's happening. These are the signs. You never know, right? You always wonder, when things go bad, what was the first thing we saw? And you never know. You never know retroactively. Or actually, sorry, you do know retroactively. You don't know in the moment, though. But it felt like in that moment, I was experiencing it. It felt like history was happening. I was like, why is the Rizzler so ubiquitous among the youth? And that's what it felt like. It felt like a collapsing society. It felt like, you ever see zombie movies? I don't really like zombie movies because they're very gory. But sometimes I'll entertain a zombie movie. And the cliche in the zombie movie is, right, there's a ragtag group of survivors, and there's always like one comic relief, right? The comedy of the group. And they'll, some way, partway through the movie, maybe 60% of the way through the movie, either 60 or 40, it's never right in the middle. But it's either a little too early or a little too late. They'll do a fight with a bunch of zombies, and they'll be under attack. It'll be very high-paced action. You won't see much of what's going on except zombies getting destroyed out there. And then the dust clears, right? The dust settles, the fog clears, and you have your protagonists all together again. And the comic relief, right? The comedy relief, they'll be halfway turned to the camera, and then they'll turn all the way. And they'll have a giant bite right here. And they'll go, wow, that was a close one, guys. And then the other people will be like, oh my God. And he's like, what? There's nothing to be scared of anymore. We got him. And then the other protagonists are like, oh fuck. The person that got bit doesn't know, but they all know. And that's how I felt. I looked up at that Jumbotron, and I felt like I was watching the comic relief, the comedy relief, get bit by a zombie. And as you know, what happens in the movie, right? They can't have that person around anymore. Now they're infected. So they pull out the gun. and with a wavering hand and a tear down the cheek, they do it. And then the blood splatters on their face. And the other two, one will usually go, and the other will throw up. That's what always happens. Now, I don't know what to do about these Rizzler kids, but obviously that's not a solution. But they are infected. I looked up and I was like, oh my God, they've been bit. And the thing is, they don't even know. Just like the person that got bit by a zombie, they don't know. But they're under the influence. If you get bit by a zombie and then you try to drive a car, will you get a ticket? Because you're under the influence. But is that covered under a DUI, or how does that work? I'll look it up later. No, I won't. That was my internal monologue you just heard. I found something I didn't know that was ridiculous. I was like, I'll look it up. And then I quickly was like, no, I won't. It almost like, looking at those kids on the Jumbotron, it was almost like what the dinosaurs probably felt, right? When they saw the meteors, they were like, holy fuck. This is it. This is the last thing we'll see. It's not even cool. Like, why is this the way we're going to go out, right? You would have thought that the downfall of society would have looked cooler, but no, it looks like this. That sucks. I feel like a lot of things have been going wrong lately, right? Like Jake Paul beat Mike Tyson. It's been a tough month for the world, I think. You know what's crazy? Sometimes you live your life, right? And there's different compartments of your life. And sometimes there's not much, or most times there's not much spillover, but sometimes there is. And I was at work on Friday, and that was the day of the fight, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, just to catch you up there. That's what we're talking about now. And I remember two of my coworkers, actually my coworker and my boss, they were talking about it. I'm like, I didn't even know they knew who Jake Paul was. But that's the thing, he's broken into mainstream enough culture to where even they're talking about it. My boss doesn't even know who Kendrick Lamar is, but he knows who Jake Paul is. I have nothing else to say. But they were talking about the fight, and they were like, yeah, Mike's definitely going to win. I was like, all right. So they know who Jake Paul is, but they don't know who Jake Paul is. I'm like, nah, that shit's rigged as hell. I was like, Jake's going to win because he just keeps putting old people up there to beat the shit out of him. And they were both like, no, bro, you didn't see Mike when he was in his prime. I'm like, no, I know. Also interesting you use the word prime. Is this sponsored? What's going on? But that's the thing. We're in a collapsing society, and I think I've seen the early signs. The Rizzler. Now, it's not the Rizzler's fault. It's more a portent of things to come. It's a sign. It's the canary in the coal mine. The Rizzler did nothing wrong, right? A bird flying into a mine, nothing wrong. But it's what follows. The bird dies. It lets you know that death is imminent. So don't fucking go in there. It's actually, that's the thing. It's a warning. We can stop now. We don't have to go further. The bird died. We don't have to. The Rizzler exists. We don't have to go down this road. We can observe it and then turn right the fuck back around. But we're not going to. We're going to walk right down that road with a smile and a chiseled cheekbone. What are we doing? What are we doing? I guess we'll find out. Last week, I got a comment. Now you watch yourself. You watch yourself. I got a comment that said, are you frequently bullied for your voice? How dare you? Some people came to my defense. They replied to it and was like, are you frequently an asshole or something along those lines? And thank you. Thank you for that. But I would like to address that comment because it's funny. See, when I first started doing stuff on social media, a dislike on something would crush me. Like, I remember getting my first couple dislikes and I was like, oh my God, I should probably leave the internet. I don't even know how to explain it. You just have to experience it yourself. Getting your first dislike when you take social media seriously is devastating. There's nothing that compares to it. It's probably the hardest thing a human can endure, really, if you think about it. Actually, if you don't think about it, because it was unthinkable what happened to me. And even one step further is getting like a comment that's a little disparaging. But now I've gotten so much stuff online said about me. I've been observed, right? I've been perceived by those on the other side of this camera that now I'm like, whatever. Now, anytime I get a dislike, it's actually a good thing. I learned very early on, anytime I was getting dislikes, it's because my content was being shown to people that don't know who I am. So it was like showing my stuff to people that just have no context. And of course, in a vacuum, they could be like, oh, I don't like this. And they dislike it and they move on. And we never cross paths again. But I didn't have that context at the beginning, so it hurt. I was like, oh, a dislike, that sucks. But then I was like, oh, it's someone that doesn't give a shit about me. And so I came to terms with it. I was like, oh, getting a dislike is actually nice because it shows that my content's being shared outside of the bubble that I've created. I'm like, hell yeah. And I pretty much applied the same concept to like hate comments or any, negative comment where I'm like, oh, nice. This is being shown to people that don't know who I am already. That's a good sign. Because sure, that's like one bad person, but that means maybe like 10 people that maybe silently like me are now privy to who I am. But I also, like I said, I found this comment funny as hell. Are you frequently bullied for your voice? Because there's so many layers to that. First, just the comment, I think is crazy. Because the first thing I think of is imagine doing that in real life. Like we've never met before. Maybe we're at like a get together, something with finger food, right? Where they got the waiters walking around. See, the thing is on TV, in movies, they make it seem very frequent, right? That you'll go to these events as an adult where people walk around with silver trays and finger food, things on toothpicks. Like growing up, I'm like, who the fuck is using toothpicks? Except like old timey, like gangsters and like motorbike riders. I don't understand how the toothpick industry has held itself up. And then I saw movies and TV shows and I saw toothpicks and all these small wieners and hot dogs. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's where all the toothpicks are getting bought by the affluent, middle-aged middle class. But now I'm an adult, right? I haven't gotten too far into this thing yet, but I haven't seen any toothpicks and silver platters. So what the fuck? Am I being lied to, or am I just not there yet? I don't get it. But imagine we're at that event, right? I'm just walking around. I have little finger food, right? Maybe it's a cucumber sandwich, maybe a pig in a blanket, assorted other things. For some reason, just a rogue olive that came off of someone else's martini. You know, there's an assortment of things on my little Dixie plate. It's an upscale event, not that upscale, okay? We still have Dixie plates. But someone walks up to me, they're like, oh, hi. I'm like, hi, my name is Gauruv. They're like, oh, interesting. Hey, before we go any further, are you frequently bullied for your voice? I'm like, what the fuck? Does this count? I don't know. No, I don't think so. Also, the other layer to this that makes it even funnier is frequently. That means that means they're like, oh, that's probably a problem. I know you're probably not getting one-off comments like this one. So I'm curious, is that like a problem? Do you need to get that looked at? Is that a frequent enough thing in your life that you have to endure? No, it's not. Why would you? Now I'm starting to second guess everything. I'm not. I used to. I think in the past, I would look at that comment and be like, oh, fuck. Yeah, I should hate myself. But now I'm like, oh, that's good. That's awesome. Because I think about it in a real life situation. Yeah, I'm at this party. And imagine the first thing someone says to you is, hey, just came to me, are you frequently bullied for your voice? And that's the thing. With the internet, we've unfortunately done this thing to humans. We've let people think that their opinion needs to be heard. There's a epidemic online where people think, says the guy with a podcast, that anytime you have a thought, someone has to hear it. They don't. See, the thing is also, people think that authenticity is valuable. I don't think it is. I think we need to bring back inauthenticity. I think it's nicer. See, have you ever run into that? You know, that person that's like, oh, I'm just unapologetically myself. That's kind of something that's charming about me, is that I just don't have a filter. I say it how it is. I'm like, okay. Is that what you call it? All right. And they think it's a nice thing because that's a praise that we've heard growing up, right? Sometimes people, you'll meet someone, they'll be like, oh, I like how you're always yourself. You know, you're like inauthentic, or what is it? You're authentically yourself. No matter what, any situation, you're the same person. And it's nice. It's a term of endearment to be yourself always. And some people, they hear that and they're like, oh, okay. People are getting praised for being themselves. I'll be myself. But I don't think everyone should be themselves. And I don't think that's a controversial opinion. I think some people would benefit from not being themselves. I think, you know, people always give that advice, like, how do I be successful? And a lot of the cliche answers is like, be yourself. Do what you believe to be true. And I'm actually going to push back against that a little bit. I don't think everyone should be themselves. I think some people would, in fact, benefit from maybe doing a 180, maybe hiding yourself as much as you can. I know a few people like that where, and it sucks because these are always the people that are so unapologetically themselves. They're like, yeah, that's just who I am. I'm like, yeah, and that's the problem. So we've identified it. Maybe we can move from here. I think too many people are being themselves. That is the problem. All these celebrities that are giving advice, be yourself. Stop saying that. Stop. You're an actor. Your job is acting. Your job is not being yourself. Stop telling other people to be themselves. Stop it. So yeah, I think we need to bring back inauthenticity because we're getting too real here. You ever see that on the internet? People disclose too much information. You're like, I don't think I should see this. Do you know about Dunbar's number? I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. But Dunbar's number is the idea that you should only really know like a small village amount of people. I think maybe the number is 100. But if you know any more people over 100, it's we're not supposed to do that. Humans, we should only really know our immediate village. And already, right? I have a little over 1,000 Instagram followers. I am current on too many people. I shouldn't know that many people. That's enough. I shouldn't do that. But we do. And I don't think it's right. I think somewhere along the way we lost the plot. And I think this is what I'm saying is that the Rizzler is here to tell us that we got to get back on track because we have strayed too far. We need to flip a U-turn, as they say, because we're barreling towards the end here. Nothing is worse than bending down in a weird way and pulling a muscle. This is something I've been experiencing this week, and it sucks. Stop it. I've been working out a little bit this week. I know. You were probably going to comment that, right? Would you write? Oh, his voice is really like that. Okay, well, that's okay. We don't need that comment on there. I know I usually ask for comments, but we don't need that. But yes, I've noticed that sometimes I'm using my body in ways I haven't. I'll reach down to grab something, like anytime I put on my shoes, anytime I, need to reach over to the floor of the passenger seat of my car, because sometimes my water bottle is there, but sometimes I'll stop, right? And the water bottle will roll forward. So I have to reach a little farther, and there it goes. Now my entire right side is fucked for like 2 hours, and I thought about it, and it is never worth it. Whenever we think, right, oh, I'll just put on my shoes in this really uncomfortable way, I might pull a muscle, but I probably won't. Anytime you pull a muscle, it's like, what is it, post-pull clarity? Like right after you pull that thing, you're like, oh, fuck, I shouldn't have. It's not worth it. My shoe is on, but who gives a shit? I don't even want to walk anywhere now because of the current state I'm in. So yeah, nothing is less worth it than bending down and pulling your muscle in a weird way. That's my wisdom of the week. But yeah, this brings us to maybe the end of the episode here, I would say. Thank you, by the way. I have this idea that everything is fleeting. So when that one episode did very well, the Olivia Rodrigo video did well 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, that was a nice moment. Now everyone will leave. But last week, there was still quite a few people that showed up, so thank you so much. And I need you to keep showing up. Said I was going to do it last week, and here we are. Test day, pop quiz, except I told you about it. I'm going to need you to leave another comment, just one more comment. If you just leave one more comment. If you could just leave one more. Oh, see, I'm even drawn to it now. Oh my goodness. I just need one comment. Can you do that for me? You can write whatever you want. You can literally write that. You can just write whatever you want. And that would be enough. That would really be enough because, like I said, my stock is down. If I'm ever going to brave carrying around a little notebook and a pen, I'm going to need at least this to do well, right? I'm going to need this stock to be in the green if I'm going to take a hit there. Or else my whole portfolio is going to be fucked. And then what do I do? So help me out. Leave a comment. Leave a like. And I am really, really grateful. With Thanksgiving coming next week, I'm giving thanks to you a few days early here. And saying that I'm thankful for your viewership and your patronage. You're not paying me, but you can leave a like. That's like a form of payment right now. Here's my offer. I'll barter with you. I'll give you this episode. Just give me a like. That's it. That's our exchange. Let's just do that. All right? And we'll do the same exact thing next week. And that's when I'll talk at you. Because I will talk at you next week. Okay?